Insertion 2 is available on the Workshop. The original map was featured in several of CSGO's earlier operations, dating as far back as 2014. It's a hostage map, but with a twist, because the players got to choose where they started from. The map was very large and open, quite unlike anything that came before it really. The maps most like it would have been the ones for the Dangerzone game mode, years after. Compared with Insertion 1, Insertion 2 is more of the same, but bigger and better. The map itself is made by Oskmos, same as the original. But this time around, Bez the Bot Whisperer has been working on the AI, enabling you to play this map offline and in single player. I asked Oskmos, why? Why was a second map needed? And what did he think about the first one? He thinks the first one got pretty much everything right. He thought the teleport spawn thing worked well. He stuck to a rule that no place should have just one entrance, and he thinks that worked well too. He even liked the layout of the first map, stating that it just works in many ways that weren't possible to foresee when he was actually making it. Oskmos is no stranger to mapping, having already got another of his maps, Library, featured in CSGO's first operation. Obviously, a lot about a map's success is down to good planning, mapping intuition, and about iterating on the layout until it works. But he still thinks that luck plays a part in determining how good a map ends up being. With Insertion, he thinks he just happened to stumble upon a winning formula. Similarly to Dusk for Team Fortress 2, he thinks that Insertion, for this particular custom game mode, just works. Problem was, this map was cursed. At some point during Operation Hydra, the treehouse in the map suddenly became haunted. If anybody stood up there, it caused a massive lag spike for everyone on the server, so he had to remove it. Then later, the map started suffering from 10-second long lag spikes between every round, and he has no idea what could be causing these issues. So that was a good reason to start work on a second map. But he admits the success of the first made him pretty nervous about the prospect of making a sequel. Work on Insertion 2 stretches as far back as 2015, which was when he took the initial texture photos for the project, getting inspiration for what the map might look and feel like, and to get the textures he could use to decorate it with, in particular this brunch texture here. And it looks like he took about 1 million pictures of the local supermarket. In total, he took 130 gigabytes of photos for this project. Now let's fast forward to 2017, which was when he started the digital process of making the map, starting the whole thing with the new birch tree model. He spent a whole year crafting foliage for the map, before he had even begun on the layout. Once he finally got to the mapping stage, he started with a small road section, then the dentist office building, and then he kept adding things out from there. The pictures you see here are all from these early stages of development. The feedback he got from the first map suggested that there needed to be a clearer target for the terrorists to defend. For the hostages not just to be in random huts and buildings, but to be in a more established compound-like area. But he never had a vision for what this should be. He believed that if he kept building on it that it would come, but it didn't. The creation of this map is somewhat unusual since the last bit he ended up making happened to be the centre of the map. By this point, there were a lot of different areas to tie together. He needed to figure out how to connect the main road around the front and the train station behind and so on. After many redesigns, he's happy with how it eventually turned out. After a lengthy development, the map was finally playtested on a full server on MapCore's Facehead Hub. A moment of truth for his creation. He worried that the layout would be too complex, but after playing a few matches on it, he liked how it played and felt, and he looks forward to seeing how the strategies develop as people familiarise themselves with it. I spoke with Bez about the bot AI. He custom made the nav mesh, which is the bit responsible for deciding on where bots can go and what they can do. With a map this open and this ambitious, compromises needed to be made. Obviously, he wanted for the bots to be able to cover as much of the map as possible, but he also had to limit support in some places to make the bots move more fluidly. For instance, he tries to avoid jumping at all costs, because it's inelegant and bots often get it wrong. He has greatly reduced jumping on this map by getting bots to run around small objects like rocks, which is more elegant than for them to try and jump onto it or over them. The shop was a terrible place for bots until he forced them not to jump, because you don't jump in a supermarket. Bots will still jump in some sections of the map though, especially where it will save them a substantial amount of time. Examples of this include the train station's platform and the fence in between the hostage spawns, simply because the alternative routes would take so much longer to traverse. If given more time, he believes he'd be able to smooth their movement out even more and to support even more shortcuts around the map. He's also written some V-scripts for the AI, which is like programming for CSGO, using the squirrel language. These have been around since Left 4 Dead 2, and it gives you more control over actions than is possible using entities in CSGO's map editor. Oral Stealth used V-scripts to make his procedurally generated maps. CSGO's co-op strike missions have used them too, to know which wave you're on and which objectives you have to do in order to continue. And Bez has used V scripts here to modify bots' behaviour without needing to recompile the map. One of these scripts freezes the bots while they're stood in spawn. Without this, they'd run about in the spawn rooms all confused because they're trying to reach the main level from there, which obviously can't be done. So he intentionally froze them and then got the V script to randomly pick a spawn point for each bot the moment the round starts for real. This improves their behaviour compared to the first insertion, where most bots would be kind of boring by selecting the same spawn zone every time. There are two modes of AI that can be used. There's the older sort, and then there's the newer one that's now seen in Deathmatch and the Guardian game mode. The benefits of the newer sort is that these bots use behaviour tree scripts to appear to be more driven by what they see and hear. They can prioritise information based on age and distance from them, which will let them behave more like humans do. Thanks to their flexible behaviour trees, they can be more easily customised to make them play your map exactly how you want for them to. But right now they don't support all of the features that the older AI can use. For instance, you can't issue radio commands to them to tell them what to do, and unless you're in co-op strike, then they don't speak back to you either. And Bez didn't want people disappointed that the bots in this map couldn't do some of the stuff that they could have done in Insertion 1, so for now he's stuck to the older AI, with a few V-scripts over the top, because the new AI still seems a little bit incomplete. The new Deathmatch bots work with hostage maps, but they flood the console with error messages whenever they're searching for a bomb site that obviously doesn't exist. Valve, please fix. Due to their limitations, if he is to ever use the newer, more experimental AI at all, then it's likely to be reserved for the map's alternative, less official versions, like the Dusk and Night ones. Yes, while the original Insertion came in day and night modes, Insertion 2 goes one better by also featuring a Dusk edition, and you can see how they all compare in these shots just here. Insertion 2 is still a work in progress. The fog right now has a problem. For some reason, players are visible well beyond the rest of the environment. And the fog is kind of inconsistent, letting you see further into the distance towards the edges of your screen. But this should all be fixed soon, and then the map can push on to completion. To thank him for his efforts, Bez has got his own graffiti featured on the map, so has everybody else who has helped with the project. You can see Zul just here, who figured out that the reason that the map was crashing at one point was because there were too many chairs. And you'll notice Oskmos' name occasionally featured around, like on the train station and in this movie poster just here. Follow Oskmos on Twitter for updates to this map, and for details on his next project. He hopes to dabble with game development in the near future. Find links to Insertion 2 in the description as well. And thank you to Oskmos and Bez for speaking with me about this map.